Waste has this time function to it, where it's an over time sort of expansion, and there's these thresholds that we see. When an organization gets to about 1 year in their cloud journey, 2 years into their cloud journey, you can start to find really significant kind of abandonment of infrastructure, and it's from a number of different places. One is just rate of change. I mean, just dozens, sometimes hundreds of changes a day in these organizations results in things that just get left behind. It happens. Or things that are configured incorrectly. That's a fairly common issue. Two is that legacy infrastructure as cloud deployment patterns evolve, because they almost certainly start at a very simple deployment strategy. When you're going through digital transformation, when you're going through your cloud migration, and then you start to discover the power of cloud, and you adapt and evolve your cloud deployment, cloud infrastructure. A lot of legacy infrastructure can get left behind. Sometimes it's the safeguard of let's just leave it there just in case, and we'll delete it in 30 days, I promise, cross my fingers. But it doesn't, that cleanup oftentimes just never materializes, or that infrastructure is forgotten and it lays around. So waste sort of gathers over time, this time function.
I'm not so sure that containerization was designed to cut cloud costs, actually. I'm just not so sure it was. But it would be interesting to see, are people going to now modernize all their application? I mean, that's not true. It's not a silver bullet for saving money, right? Kubernetes. I'm sure there are plenty of use cases. There are plenty of use cases on why it should work, but I think people go into it with this notion that all of a sudden I'm going to be more efficient and I'm going to be saving money and I'm going to be more secure is actually the one I hear often, is that we're going to start using containers. One of the benefits is we will be more secure. When in reality, you lose most of your visibility into your infrastructure when you implement containers. So if you don't have a solid strategy and understanding what's being orchestrated, what's being built, what's being used, why it's being used, then you're going to be in a similar position that you were in before with a bunch of sprawl, right? And we see it quite a bit, especially with organizations that choose it for maybe the wrong reasons. But I'd be interested to see, like, the last recession that we had spawned this virtualization thing. Will this recession spawn app modernization? Because that's the best way to cut costs and be more efficient, is to modernize your applications, whether that's containers for the right use case or serverless or this or that, whatever the case may be. But that's the best way to do it.
Really thinking about, where can my applications take advantage of, greater advantage of public cloud? Where can I start to use services to reduce my spending, control my costs, manage it better based on the usage patterns of the app, et cetera. So, really we get into this topic of refactor. And of course, there's many different areas we could dive into here, from kind of refactoring legacy, monolithic apps, all the way down to even the ongoing refactoring that happens. We see it over and over with our own engineering team of how you rethink even your own cloud native app, because you find a way that you can take advantage of cost differences in the environment and do things slightly differently in order to drive down costs. We've done that ourselves. We've refactored our own application to cut in half our cloud costs because we discovered ways that we could take advantage of infrastructure in different ways. It's a reality of learning and understanding and things changing in real time.
You're most likely not securing those resources in a way, not only are you wasting money, but you're also probably leaving some holes open within your environment, your network, for bad actors to take advantage of. And I know this, it's not necessarily cost related, but that will end up causing you, that could potentially impact you from a spend perspective if you have to notify people if, say, data has been breached. I mean, I think the one that sticks in my head is, like, maybe a few years ago, Capital One left an S3 bucket. It was either an S3 bucket or an EC2 instance that they didn't know they had, that had access to said S3 bucket, which had a bunch of customers' data in it. Not used, should have been deprecated, but was left up. and people got a bunch of credit card numbers out of it, right? So, and Capital One's pretty advanced when it comes to cloud usage. So even those companies that have been doing this for years and years and years and years in public cloud environments are susceptible to these things as well.
There's some important nuance in, I think you just covered off on a bunch of it. There's important nuance around flexibility within these plans as well. When we think in terms of savings plans, you have a little more flexibility, right? Because your spend can apply to, in a EC2 instance savings plan, your spend can apply across that instance family. So if you're using M5s and you have a bunch of, M5 larges, speaking specifically about AWS here, right? It can apply to that, but if you stop using some of those and you want to use some M5 extra larges, well, that spend commitment will apply to those as well. So, it stays within the family. When you look at an actual compute savings plan, well, then it gets even more flexible. You don't have to pick a family. It actually can extend outside of that compute spend can go across, more buckets in the environment. But the downside to, or the risk in savings plans, why you have to be careful in calculating what your spend is actually going to be and predicting it, looking ahead, is that you can't get out of it. Once you're in the contract, once you're in the 1 year or 3 year contract, you're in it. There's no selling
Good point.
it, right? There's
Great
no
point.
reducing it.